Hey everyone, my name is Joan and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to share with you all the side hustles I've ever done. Some of these side hustles I still do, some of them I won't ever do again. I'm also going to share with you the side hustles that my husband has done. Just a quick background, I do work a full-time job now, but for the longest time I was a freelancer. I only took on temporary work, part-time jobs, part-time gigs, independent contractor work, random projects, and some of the work I've done I've been able to turn into my main source of income, and some of them I wanted to try and realized they weren't really worth the time and money. So hopefully this video will inspire you to look for extra work in case you're trying to save up, pay off some debt, or just looking for extra ways to make some cash. Now I know for a fact that moms, parents in general are always looking for something for their kids to do outside of school. So I have been teaching drum lessons for almost 20 years and it's been a really good side hustle for me. When I started out, I was charging lower rates, but I really wanted to build up my roster and get better at teaching. And as I've gotten better at teaching drums, I started charging higher rates and just taking on less students. At some point, teaching music lessons was a really good source of income for me. It was actually my main source of income for a while until I decided I didn't want to teach as much anymore. Nowadays, I charge $100 per hour or $50 for half an hour. And at this point, I only teach about 5 students, and it's a really good chunk of change to have on the side. And as far as how I got students, back then there was a platform, an online agency I used to be signed up for, and I wish I could recommend them, but unfortunately Microsoft bought them out, drove it to the ground, and then shut it down. However, that was not the only way I found students. I actually went around town every week for like an entire month, just passing out flyers at places where parents and their kids hang out. And I had a lot of success putting up my flyers at smoothie shops and even coffee shops, just anywhere that had a bulletin board that allowed you to post. And at some point I started gaining students that way, and it still works. So if you have some kind of skill that you feel confident teaching, and it doesn't have to be music, it could be teaching a language, tutoring math, tutoring English, whatever it is that kids need right now, if you have a skill that you can teach, it could be really good money for you. Another side hustle I do from time to time is pet sitting. I will watch my brother's dog and cat, I will watch my neighbor's cat, I will watch whoever needs me to watch their pet, because I do love dogs and cats. I don't have a pet right now, so this is a great way for me to experience having a pet. So how this started was just simply me telling people, friends, colleagues, whoever, that, oh, I wish I had a dog. I wouldn't mind watching your dog once in a while. And they actually take me up on it. I also live in an apartment community where a lot of people have pets, and I've befriended one of my neighbors who happens to have a cat, and I dropped a line that, oh, I'm watching my brother's dog and cat this weekend, and she figured out that I pet sit, so she asked me, hey, can you watch my cat sometimes when I go out of town? And I was like, yeah, of course. And it's super easy because she lives in my apartment community, so I can just walk over to her apartment, watch her cat, give it some love, feed it, make sure it does its business, and then I go back again later that night to do the same thing. As far as how much I make with pet sitting, I've gotten anywhere as low as $30, but I've also gotten paid as much as $60. It really just depends on the extent, how long I'm watching them for, and when I watch my brother's pets, it does kind of require me to hang out at their place for an entire weekend, so obviously it pays more. So if you love animals, if you love dogs, cats, and you have a way of networking with the people around you, let them know that you're willing to watch their pets, and it could be really easy money for you. Now, one of the things I highly recommend anybody to do at least once in their life, whether it's just a side hustle on the weekends for a few months or maybe a year or two, really depends, is to work in retail. I've worked in retail many times in my life. I've worked in clothing stores, I've worked with musical instruments, I've worked with kitchen appliances. I've done part-time seasonal, and I've also done part-time for like a year or two for a company. And it can be a really rewarding experience. Yes, the money isn't always great, but it is extra money you can make on the weekends, especially if you're just working a full-time job during the week and you want to just do something different, make extra cash. working in retail can be a really fun and rewarding experience. I've been very fortunate enough to work for companies with great management, a great team, and products that I would totally use myself, so the job was really easy. It's also a really great way to develop your people skills. Like, I became way more personable when I worked in retail, because you kind of have to. There are also great perks with getting discounts on the product that you sell and a lot of free prizes and things like that, which you kind of have to be careful with if you're a minimalist. But I definitely recommend it. It can be good extra cash. It can be a really fun and rewarding experience. One of the side hustles I've definitely done is selling stuff online. When I first started my decluttering journey, clothing was the first thing I wanted to focus on, and I found Poshmark and actually sold quite a bit of my clothes on Poshmark. I was shocked that people were willing to buy my old stuff. It was definitely a great way to get rid of clothing, especially when I had that guilt of like getting rid of stuff that I paid for. And there were some months I actually made up to like $100. There were some months it was only maybe 40 or 50 bucks. I still have my Poshmark account, but I'm just not selling clothes right now because the clothes that I'm getting rid of at this point were like very used up, and I just don't want to sell items like that. It's definitely worth doing if you have the time and the patience to sell clothes on Poshmark. Anytime my husband and I moved, we've sold furniture, random household items, random personal items on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. I remember we were freaking out about getting rid of our couches and some of our tables and things like that because we didn't want to bring them to our new place, but people were willing to buy them. And we didn't have to worry about transport because people were bringing their own trucks and things like that to pick up our large items that we just didn't know what we were gonna do. And when I think about our first move from LA to Ventura, I think we sold up to $800 to $900 of our stuff, which is not bad. However, at least we were able to get rid of it. We didn't have to figure out transporting it somewhere or just throwing it away. People paid for it and took it out of our hands. My husband is also really good with selling online, so he actually was flipping guitars for a while. He's a guitar player, so he knows how to do this stuff. So he did that for a while. I think he was using the platform Reverb to, buy a guitar, fix it up, and then sell it for more. Again, you would have to have that kind of skill and also the time and patience to do that. So he did that for a while. He doesn't do it anymore, but it was definitely something that he felt like it was worth doing at the time. So selling stuff online is definitely worth trying, especially if you have a lot of stuff that you just have a hard time letting go of for free. At least you can sell it. And you'd be surprised how much stuff you have in your house that you don't even need anymore that you could potentially make money off of. Another side hustle that I've tried that I don't think I would ever do again is Airbnb. When my husband and I were living in LA and we were renting a 4-bedroom house, there was one period where we had a spare bedroom and thought, hey, it might be kind of fun to do Airbnb and rent out that room and meet some cool people and whatnot. So we did it for about a year. And at first it was fun, it was exciting, it was really fun to host somebody and, tell them about the area and, just get to know people. But after a while we started getting really messy and sloppy and disrespectful and just really weird people that it got to the point where we're like, I don't know if we want to do this anymore. And on top of that, when we were looking at the finances of it, were we really making money? Not really. It was enough to cover the rent for that room, but with everything else, like having to clean up and make sure everything's fine for the guest and making sure that we're home when the guests arrive and all that stuff, it was just becoming too much. And then when we had guests that would just leave the room looking really disgusting and even like stole one of our hair dryers one time, it just got really annoying. And so after a year we looked at it and we're like, you know what, this is not worth it for us anymore. I mean, it was enough money to cover the rent, but we were not making more than that. It was a very seasonal thing. There were some months it was super slow. We were barely getting by just covering the rent for that room. So after a year, we decided to stop. So if you like hosting and you don't mind doing all the work for it, and if you like meeting new people, Airbnb can be fun when you're young. But at some point, you have to kind of think about that time and effort that you put into it to make it work. And depending on your housing situation, it might be worth the money or it might be not. Now, I know a lot of people are really into the idea of working remotely, being able to just work from home on our computer and just work on our own schedule. And I can definitely share a couple of things that my husband and I have tried when it comes to finding work online. So for many years, I've been writing blogs. I've done food blogs, I've done my personal blogs. This is actually my website that I haven't touched in a while, and I do have some blog posts here. But I went through a phase where I actually tried to make money writing blog posts. And it was really interesting because I remember going on Upwork, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Upwork. And I found this posting for someone looking to write about rabbits. Now, mind you, I don't know anything about rabbits, but the way it was presented, it sounded like a fun project, and it seemed really cute, and he seemed to make it sound promising that I could make good money writing blog posts. So I decided to take on this project, and I remember the first blog post I wrote for this guy, I think it paid about $35 for a blog post of like however many characters, I can't remember. And I wrote blog posts for him a couple of times, but I remember how much time it took because I knew nothing about rabbits, and of course he was making sure that I wasn't like plagiarizing, which of course I wasn't, but sometimes like when I read an article, I kind of just unconsciously write something that was maybe not my wording, but he caught it and he says, hey, you have to rewrite this because it sounds like you plagiarized it. So it was a lot of work like that, like, a lot of research, and then just making sure however I wrote the blog post, it didn't sound like something else. So it just was too much work for me, and I was spending hours and hours doing this for $35 or $40, and it just wasn't worth the money. But it was cool to try, like I've always wondered about, can I make money off of blog posts? And there you go, you can. And if you find a project that you're very passionate about and you could just get through it really quickly, I'm sure it could be a fun side hustle for you. But for me, that was enough for me to realize like, no, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to research stuff that I don't really care about, so I'm just not going to do this anymore. Now, if you're someone who's bilingual and can speak English and another language very fluently, you can make really good money just being a translator. And the one thing that my husband actually did in particular was video translation. So he is German, he speaks German fluently, but he also speaks English fluently because he's lived in the US for a long time. And he's gotten work translating German videos with English subtitles. And how he got this gig was that he has a friend of a friend that's a videographer and does like German sports or something like that. And he's done several projects for this guy, just translating German soccer videos or German tennis videos. And it would be like videos for like commentary on the sport or whatever. So he would watch the video and just make sure that the English subtitles make sense. It is a lot of work. It does take time, and it does require software skills, that he would know how to punch in all the subtitles in the video. But he has made anywhere between $700 to like $1,000 per video. And that's really good money if you have that kind of skill. If you're bilingual, that's definitely something that you could make a good chunk of money of. I am also bilingual. I do know how to speak Tagalog. I did try to look into some projects like that on Upwork, but I just didn't find anything that I wanted to do or spend time on. But it was definitely something I considered because I know how to speak both languages pretty well. So if you're bilingual and like to work in front of the computer, definitely something worth looking into. And you could definitely find work like that on Upwork, or you just have to network. So one big side hustle that my husband and I do that we are still doing is actually building websites, and we've actually turned it into a business. So if you have an interest in building websites, you have an eye for design, and you have the time and the patience to learn this skill, it can make you really good money. Now, I've built websites for catering companies, photographers. I've built websites for a dentist, a lawyer, tree care services, a structural engineer. I've done all kinds of websites. You can charge as low as $1,000 to up to $3,500. It really just depends on the extent of the project. and people need websites all the time. And so we started learning how to build websites, and then after that, my husband started selling Google ads and SEO, which I'm not gonna get into because that's not my thing, but I mainly do websites. Now, I'm not the most tech savvy person. I can do a lot of the basic things like, YouTube videos, but I actually started learning on my own, and I just watched a ton of tutorial videos on YouTube or on the website of the platform I use, but it's definitely worth it once you figure it out. How I started learning was that I've been blogging for a while, as I mentioned earlier, and I was blogging on WordPress, and WordPress has all these templates that you've kind of just drag and drop and all that stuff, and that kind of gave me an idea of how to build a website. And then eventually I ventured out into this thing called Elementor, and so Elementor is like something you use in WordPress to build a website. And then eventually Webflow became one of the industry standards, so I had started learning how to use Webflow. Now, I don't know any coding. I don't do any of that. I know some just to kind of figure out certain things. However, a lot of the websites I've built was just drag and drop. So at this stage in my life, if I were to recommend one or the other for learning how to build websites, I would just go with Webflow because it is an industry standard. Everything is on their website. They have something called Webflow University, so all the video tutorials are right there. That's actually how I learned how to build websites on Webflow. Everything's just built in and integrated. Now, how did we get clients? Well, we started with just word of mouth. My husband's dad started a business and he built his website, and then one of my colleagues, he started a business in structural engineering, so we built his website, and eventually we just started building our portfolio that way just by building websites for our friends and families and colleagues. We've also built websites just going on Upwork. We also do outreach to local businesses, and it just grew from there. So if you are interested in doing work like web design and you have enough skills on the computer and you're willing to put in the time and the energy to learn this skill, it is definitely something that can make you quite a bit of money. And it could just stay as your side hustle, or you could turn it into business the way my husband and I have. Now, the last and newest side hustle I want to share with you all that I do is making YouTube videos. I'll eventually make a whole video about this because I know people are really interested on different people's YouTube journeys and monetization and all that. But just to keep it short, I've been making YouTube videos since 2021, and I was just doing it for fun, and I just liked the process of creating videos and sharing my ideas and editing and then putting it up and showing it to the whole world. There were times I was really consistent, and there were times that I was not because I really wasn't sure if I wanted to make time to keep doing this. However, last year I decided to just go hard and do it again and be consistent, and eventually I got monetized, I think in August. And as far as how much I make making YouTube videos, my first month I think was somewhere in like the 200 range, and then I had a couple of months where I was making anywhere between $500 to $600. That's pretty wild to me. And then I did take a break over the holidays and it went down to like $30 in a month, but that's okay. That's just the way it goes. And when you get paid to do it, it makes it even more fulfilling, makes it more fun because now you feel like you have an incentive to do it. And most importantly for me is that I get to do something I enjoy. I get to share my ideas and connect with like-minded people from all over the world. So this is your sign to start a YouTube channel today. I know everybody says that, but I definitely recommend starting a YouTube channel, especially if you like to share ideas, if you feel comfortable talking about your ideas, talking in front of a camera, if you enjoy editing. Making YouTube videos as a side hustle is a very fulfilling journey. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you got something out of it. I hope it can inspire you to find some side hustles to increase your income and save up for that trip or pay off your debt or whatever it is that you need to do. Let me know in the comments below. What are your side hustles? What are some side hustles that you've done, that you continue to do, or side hustles you'll never do again? I would love to hear in the comments below. Anyway, I hope you're all having a great day, great rest of your week, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.